Shalom Israel, my name is Ives Jude Israel. I'm a part of Strong Tower Israelite School. And today, as everybody may know, that the day at sunset is the Feast of Purim. And today I'm going to be going over the book of Esther, leading up to the Feast of Purim to show the importance of the Feast of Purim and why we should basically, magnify this holy day, because it shows a lot in our history, being that how we struggled in our captivity, how we overcame our captivity, how our enemies also backed us in our captivity. So today I'm going to be reading a few chapters in the book of Esther. I'm going to make this a two-part class. And yeah, I'm going to get into the chapter. I hope everybody having a good day. Hope everybody feeling good. Hope everybody's day is going well. I wish everybody well, And let's get into the class. Okay, so I'm going to start with the book of Esther. This is the book of Esther, chapter 1. It says, "Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus." This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 120 provinces, that in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him. Verse 4. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days, 104 score days, that's 180 days. So he showed his majesty 180 days in his province. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that was present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of red and blue, and white and black and marble. Verse 7. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law. None did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. So it was a good feast, the king was having. Everybody was having a good time. He was giving whatever they want according to their pleasure. So let's keep reading. Also Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zithar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. Vashti don't messed up. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. So the king had a wise man in his circle, y'all. Y'all gotta understand that it's not that all these the kingdoms that reign upon the earth, they're not gonna have no ignorant men among them. They're gonna have wise men that understand law and judgment. So let's keep reading. Then the king said to the wise men which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Atmatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsana, and Mumakan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, which sat the first in the kingdom. Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law, because she have not performed the commandment of King Ahasuerus by the chamberlains? And Memucan answered before the king and the princes. Vashti the queen have not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes, and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him before she came not. Wait, let's read that over. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. So Vashti wasn't stunned that, She like, look, I'm the queen. I don't have to come before the king if I don't want to. So let's keep reading. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. Verse 19. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. So we're gonna find out who's better than who's better than Queen Vashti. And when the king's decree which he shall make, let's read that again. And when the king's decree which he shall make shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to the great and small. So they're saying, look, this decree is going to basically make the wives humble themselves to their husbands, because it's going to be a statement that you don't disrespect your husbands, or, you don't disrespect a king in front of his company. And the same pleased the king, and the princes and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters unto all the king's provinces, and to every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house. Even a heathen king is given commandment that every man should bear rule in his own house. But then when we have our own God who's basically given a commandment that we shall bear rule in our own house and we shall be established at the head, we have contempt. But we got to understand that us being an example that many of the other nations, they live by our standards also, This is not just a thing in Israel, a lot of the heathen, they had principles also established the man as the head. Let's keep reading. Let's read verse 22 again. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. So this decree was going to go through every nation, every province, for everyone can basically read and understand it through every language. Let's start at chapter 2. And these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and was decreed against, and what was decreed against her. Verse 2. Then said the king's servants that minister unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegi, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now, in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, honorable man, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which he had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther. So Esther's name was Hadassah. And that goes to show you that in many captivities that that the heathen, they like to change our name, but Esther's name was before known as Hadassah. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. And the maid was fair and beautiful, when her father and mother were dead, took her for his own daughter. Verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together in Shushan the palace to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. So Esther, she outdid herself. Verse 10. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, meaning she didn't basically display what heritage she came from. She understood that she was in captivity, and that's going to play a major role in this story as we continue to read. For Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now, when every maid turn was come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purification accomplished, to wit, 6 months with all of myrrh, and 6 months of sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. So King Ahasuerus, he took care of the women. He looked out for the women, man. It's nothing wrong with that. Then thus came every maiden unto the king. Whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. Verse 14. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women, to the custody of Shaashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name. Verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Hagar, the king's chamberlain. The keeper of the women appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house, royal, in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther. He loved her already, and above all the women. And she obtained grace and favor in his sight, more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. So the Most High, I ain't gonna say that much. I ain't gonna basically give it away because I don't want to just ruin the story. But just to say this, man, the Most High was looking out for Esther, and all this gonna play an important role into the deliverance of all people in the upcoming of why we celebrate the feast of Purim. So let's keep reading. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. So Esther had her feast immediately, and he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, 2 of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. This says a lot, man. This says a lot. You mean to tell me that Mordecai, he told? There's a lot of things that's going on. Man. I hear a lot of things in Israel that, like the thing about snitching and everything like this. Man, y'all got to understand that Mordecai, he told the heathen king what his people was about to do to him. That runs deep, man, being that he's in captivity. That's what's going to give him favor in the sight of King Ahasuerus. We got to keep in mind, man, when we see wicked, even from either part, a heathen or from amongst our own people, we got to remember Leviticus chapter 5 and 1. Let's get there, Leviticus chapter 5 and 1. I'm just going to, get this law right quick. This is the book of Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. And it says, if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness, if you witness this sin, whether he have seen or known of it, Mordecai knew of it. If he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. So that is the law for snitching. There's nothing wrong with, being righteous, man, trying to do the right thing, and not allowing other sins to bear upon you. So let's keep reading the story. Where was I? I'm at Ezra chapter 2 verses Ezra chapter 2 verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. Chapter 3.
After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him, and all the king's servants, that were in the king's gate, bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Verse 4, Now it came to pass when they spake daily unto Mordecai, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. So Mordecai let it be straight up known, like, look, I'm not bowing down for nobody. I'm a Jew. I keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. The same way with us in this captivity. We don't put our hands on our heart for the flag. We don't do anything against the Most High. We don't make vows to no allegiance, none. And that's very important to understand, man, because when you make allegiance with other people and you bow down before other people, they become your idol. You don't want to do that, man. Not at all. So let's go to verse 4. Now it came to pass when they spoke daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath, and he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. Verse 7. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur. Remember that word pur. Because that's the importance of Purim. That is the importance of Purim. That's where you get pur and Purim. That basically correlates. So they cast pur. That is the lot. They cast a lot. Pur means the lot. They cast a lot before Haman from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month of Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. Verse 9, If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 tons of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. Well, you got to imagine this. You got to put yourself in this situation. Like, it wasn't a joke back then, man. You got this man basically saying he's going to kill all the Jews for keeping their law, statutes, and commandments. We was going crazy back then. Verse 10, And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, The silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring. It's funny. This is funny because all this is going to tie back. Let me stop. Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. Verse 14. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was established. Well, let's read that again. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given into Shushan, the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the Shushani was perplexed. I mean, the people was going crazy in Shushan. Everybody was going crazy, Chapter 4. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put sackcloth and put sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and a bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay sackcloth, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. Verse 4. So Esther's maid and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther for Hatak, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai, to know what it was and why it was. So Hatak went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given to Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people, and to make request unto him before her, and to make request before him for her people. So Mordecai is giving her top commandment to go to Esther, and like, look, man, you got to look out for your people. We are in distress, you know. Look out for your people, even though you sit at a high and the king is taking favor in you. Look out for your people. Verse 9. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again, Esther spake unto Hatak, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever whether man or woman shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. So she giving her calls to her talk to Mordecai. You know, she haven't been called in, so she's fearing right now. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape the king's house more than all the Jews. So Mordecai is putting her in remembrance. For if thou altogether holdest thou peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? So Mordecai is putting Esther in remembrance, like, look, even though you was at the bottom with us, you know, and I took care of you, how do you not know that the Most High put you in this position to give you favor in the sight of King Ahasuerus, that you should deliver his people out of this predicament that they in now? Then Esther bade them to return verse 15. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, nor 3 days, night or day. So this verse 16, this is another precept of anybody wondering how to fast. You're not supposed to eat nothing, or you're not supposed to drink nothing when you fast, you know. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. I can respect that, you know, because even though Hadassah, which is Esther, she was in the king's favor, you know, she stood for her people. She was like, man, look, if I go in, the king don't hold up their golden schedule for me. If I die, I die. You know, I'm looking out for my people. We don't have a lot of people like that today in today's captivity, man. You know, we have a lot of people that turn against us, you know, and they'll basically reside for the enemy instead of uplifting their people and standing for their people. It goes on a lot, man. And, you know, I recommend a lot of our people who hold high positions, who may be in the military, who may, you know, hold political offices, who may do all these things. They believe in this truth, you know. To read this right here, to read the book of Esther, man, there's a lot of examples that we can live from and learn from, you know, and show us how we may not be put in that situation, maybe not put in our current successful situation based on what we have done according to the Most High, can be for the deliverance of your own people. And again, not all our people, but one person out of the situation that they're in. You know, so let's read verse 17 again. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Chapter 5. Esther chapter 5 verse 1. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. See, the king had favor with Esther. He had a lot of favor for her. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be given thee to have. It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. This man had so much faith in Esther, man, that he was gonna get whatever she asked, whatever she requested. He said it shall be given to her even to the half of the kingdom. He was gonna give her half of the kingdom if she would have asked for it. Verse 3. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther have said. You gotta understand, man, because it's funny. I don't read this plenty of times, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy, man, because I understand the story. You got King Ahasuerus, and you got Haman, basically his right hand man. He gave him basically rulership in his kingdom. He sat beside him. He advanced him, and you got him saying, you got King Ahasuerus saying to Queen Esther, look, tell Haman to basically be at that banquet because Queen Esther said it. This is a Jew, and King Ahasuerus giving favors to Esther, That's beautiful. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste. Tell him to hurry up, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Haman walking past like, man, I'm finna go to this banquet. He walking past, he see Mordecai in the gate like, he ain't even honoring me in my presence. But I'm still go to this banquet though. So, he treading along. Verse 10, Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself. He like, okay. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and the servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come with the king into the banquet that she had prepared but myself. And tomorrow I am invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then said Zeresh his wife, and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high. And tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. Okay, y'all. Like I said, I'm not going to get into the whole story tonight, because we got 2 days of the Feast of Purim. So I want this to last today from sunset, because the Feast of Purim, it comes in on tonight, and it ends tomorrow. No, it comes in tonight. It ends, the first day ends sunset, and the next day kick in on the 21st, and it ends that day. So I'm going to kick this class back off on tomorrow. And if y'all want to see how the Feast of Purim basically is correlated into this story, how everything swapped, how Rams, his destruction. I shouldn't have said destruction because that's giving it away. But you know, Haram's, you know, what's gonna happen to Haram, what's gonna happen to Mordecai. So y'all tune in, man, and keep listening, you know, keep listening in, keep tuning into the class. It's coming back at you, I promise you. And you know, for this Feast of Purim, I hope y'all have a good day, you know, a good Feast of Purim. And those who already know the Queen of Esther, know the story of Esther, man, do not give it away. Do not give it away, you know, because I want everybody who's new in this truth to have a good feeling about this truth and our heritage, man, and know that we had royalty in our heritage, you know, and we had a lot of kings of the heathen that exalted us in their kingdom. So it's not a bad thing if you're exalted in this kingdom. Just know that, you know, when it comes to your people, keep your people first. So with that, y'all, I hope everybody have a good Feast of Purim, day 1 and day 2. I'll be coming right back at y'all. Shalom. God bless y'all.